we now welcome on a very special guest. She was a member of the New York Jets flight crew cheerleading squad for 2 seasons. Ladies and gentlemen, Lindsay Gaylord. Lindsay, how are you doing?
I'm great. How are you guys?
Good.
Doing pretty good. All right, so I'm going to start this off and just want to know, at what age did you start cheering?
So I was actually a dancer my whole life. I've been dancing since the age of 3. I started out with ballet and jazz and tap and lyrical and hip hop and kind of grew up from there. And then I started on my high school dance team. And I did that for 4 years. And then I went on to college and I danced on my college team for 4 years. And I actually ended up getting a master's degree. I have 2 master's degrees in information technology. And as I was getting my first master's, they needed me to do an internship. And so I interned with J. Crew up in New York, in New York City. And so I moved up to New York, and I had always wanted to dance professionally. The Dallas Cowboy Cheerleaders was kind of like my dream, being from Texas. But I ended up in New York, and so the Giants didn't have a cheerleading team, but the New York Jets did. And so I looked him up, and the director actually was a Dallas Cowboy cheerleader. And so that was really cool because she used all of the things that she had learned from Dallas and brought it and made a new team for the New York Jets. So I really got to have a similar experience as to Dallas. But yes, I tried out for the team, and I actually did not make it my first year. I made it to finals, but I didn't make the team my first year. And I went back and I tried doing it all over again. And I was like, okay, second time's the charm. And I made the team. There was like 500 or more people that tried out, and for like 10 spots, because the rest were veterans. And so there was 10 of us on my rookie year. And yeah, it was amazing. It was the best time of my life. And we hosted the Super Bowl one year. Obviously the Jets didn't play in it, but we hosted it, which was great. And it was a lot of fun.
Well, so you had kind of an unconventional path, I guess, because
like
in high school I was actually a cheerleader. So
oh wow.
I was hoping that you were a cheerleader, but I feel like, because I've met some other NFL cheerleaders, and they also followed the same path as you as being a professional dancer.
Mm-hmm.
So in the process of trying out for the team, what all was that like? And what were the kind of things, like what were the steps that you had to take to try to get there?
So it's actually a very grueling process. So the first day, you show up and they put you in groups of 5, and you tell them your name and where you're from, and then they turn on a random song. It was different for every single group. They turn on a random song, and you just had to dance for 90 seconds, which is really hard to do, by the way. That's probably the worst part of the whole audition process, is just dancing, making something up for 90 seconds to a song that you had no idea what you're going to dance to. But they just wanted to see if you could dance, what your personality was like. Are you shy, or can you, they just wanted to see what you're about. So then they make a round of cuts. They probably cut it in half from there. And then the next day, they had everybody who made the cut come back and learn a routine. So they taught us a routine, and they taught us a kick line. And then we had to perform both of those things like right after. Like there was no downtime to like practice. I mean, well, there was like maybe like 30 minutes. But I mean, not much. So we had to just regurgitate what we had just learned and make it look good. And then we also showed like our splits and I think some turns. And then they kind of made another cut from there. I think they cut it in about half again. And the next round, we had to do interviews. So we had to show up in person in a business suit, and it was a very formal interview, and they just asked us about our lives and, what we do besides dancing or cheerleading. And then they made another round of cuts from there. And then the final round, it was actually the next weekend. You had to perform the dance that we had learned the weekend before, and also you had to perform your own solo routine that was 90 seconds. So you had to make up a routine, you had to have an outfit, and you had to perform the routine from the weekend before. So that same day that we did the final round of auditions, they had hours of deliberation, and then they call out everybody's number who made the team. And then we all, like, obviously hugged and cried. and you have to audition every single year. So even if I did the team for 2 years, and even after I was a veteran, I had to come back, and I got to skip the first couple rounds where the freestyle dance and then, like, learning the routine. We got taught the routine separately. So as a veteran, you kind of have a leg up because you get to show up for finals. But as a veteran, you're also expected to, like, be better. You know, like, you can't just be as good as you were last year's audition. Like, you had to be better and, like, prove, you know, had something to prove, you know. So you had to come back with the guns loaded and really be prepared. So it was, you know, you can get cut as a veteran very easily. So it was just as nerve-wracking, if not more, because you knew what you had to lose.
Did they ever kind of ask you questions about, like, football, or just did they quiz you on, like, the team and quiz? I figured you'd be representing them. Did they, like?
Yeah. So once you kind of made, well, once you made it to training camp, because you hadn't made the team yet. Once you made it to training camp, so we went through this grueling training camp all summer long, practicing 3 days a week, sometimes 4, and part of it was we got quizzed on, you know, the team stuff, like, you know, the Jets won the Super Bowl in 1969, and, you know, every little detail that you could possibly want to know about the Jets. We had to know it. And because, you know, if you're a cheerleader, like, and you're interacting with fans and they ask you a question, you can't sound like you don't know anything.
Oh,
so
yeah.
That was definitely part of it.
And this is when the Jets weren't necessarily very good, so I can only imagine what the like for that.
You know, it actually makes your cheerleading career a lot more interesting when you're cheering for a losing team, because you still have to be cheerful. Even when they're losing.
Okay, yeah. That makes a lot of sense. So in the in-game portion of being a cheerleader, on the sidelines, did it ever get really dangerous where you guys stand? Like, did anything from the field, like a player or a ball, ever come your way?
It's funny that you say that, because my rookie year, I was standing there and a ball comes flying at me. I had no idea what to do. I'm like, do I stand here? Do I, like, catch it? Like, I don't know what to do. And I stood there, and then it, like, bounced off of my leg. It was so embarrassing. It was on national TV. My parents still laugh about it. But I just, like, stood there and then, like, let the ball bounce off me. So yeah, it can be a little dangerous. We definitely have had girls that got, like, tackled, you know, like, a little bit. No, nobody's gotten seriously injured, but yeah, you definitely got to watch out.
Is that a conversation they have with you before, like, what to do if ever anything like that ever happens, or just kind of, like, figure it out?
Well, I mean, they didn't. I think it should be a conversation. I mean, I think I handled it well. I didn't, like, run away, but yeah, I mean, I'm like, what do I do? That's probably something they should have covered.
Looking back, yeah, I can think, yeah.
Yeah, you should have caught it and showed off your hands a little bit, but...
Yeah, right?
Get a contract.
So take us a little bit through what a practice is like for a professional cheerleader.
So we always started out running laps, which was, like, the worst part for me. I hate cardio. I mean, not, like, I can't say I hate cardio because, you know, that's, like, the whole thing. But, like, I don't like running.
Same.
Specifically.
Yeah.
Yeah, I hate running. But yeah, we had to run laps to start out the practice, and then we'd stretch. We did a really long stretch and just make sure you're warmed up, because tearing or spraining anything is definitely not in the cards. You can't do that, because then you're out for, like, the whole season. But yeah, so then after the warm up, depending on the day, like, if we're learning a routine, then we would just get right in and learn the routine. And it would take pretty much the whole practice, and that would just be kind of that day. But if we had already learned a routine, like, the day before, we had to come back with it perfect, which is another thing. So you have to go home and practice after the practice. And so we would come in the next day, you know, as ready as we could be, and then we would go through and we would clean every little detail, like, okay, no, your arm's too high, or, you know, your leg's in the wrong place, or you need to get lower, or whatever. And so we would we would clean the routine, and then what else? I'm trying to think what else we would do in practice. Sometimes we'd run like drills, like just like going across the floor, or different exercises like to sharpen our skills. Or if we had, so that would be like a gym rehearsal day. But if we were out on the field, so we'd go to the field one day a week, which actually was super interesting. We practiced in New York City, but the field practice where the Jets training center is out in New Jersey. So it was always a mission. Like everybody had to have a car or like get a ride from one of the girls. So it was always a mission to like get out, to practice. But yeah, so when we were at the field, we'd run laps, and then we would get in a kick line. We have a kick line. So we would get on our long kick line and we do our kick routine. That was like the majority of field practice, or like running through our routines that were already polished. Yeah, it was very intense.
Yeah, I know exactly what you're saying about intense practices, because one year when I was a cheerleader, we got invited to cheer at the Gator Bowl, and one of our coaches was one of the judges from So You Think You Can Dance. He was the choreographer, and he called me out in front of there was probably 150 cheerleaders there, like, preparing, and he singled me out because I didn't know the routine, because I wrestled at the same time I did cheerleading. So, like, I didn't have the routine down sharp, and he, like, called me out and embarrassed me in front of everyone for not having, like, the routine down.
Oh, yeah, that's,
yeah.
Well, we had plenty of that. If you didn't come back, if you looked like you did not know the routine, she was going to say something, and you probably weren't going to dance at that game either. Like, if you don't have the routine perfect, you're not going to dance.
Oh, I got it down. I made sure that didn't happen again.
Yeah, once you make that mistake once, you're like, okay, I'm going to practice until I can't get it wrong,
Yeah, pretty much.
Go
ahead, Justin.
Yeah, no, sorry. So I saw that back in 2016, the Jets, they kind of settled a wage lawsuit brought on, like a class action suit by a bunch of cheerleaders. They said they were making like $100 for events and $150 per game. What was kind of the general feeling at that time, and were you a part of what was happening?
So, my feelings on it, I feel like, yes, I mean, obviously everybody wants to be compensated more, right? But I've always been a performer because I loved performing. And so for me, it was a reward to get to dance for the Jets. It wasn't, a job for me. Like, yes, it was a job, but it wasn't, it was a treat for me. So I wasn't looking for compensation. It was one of the girls who had been on the team before, and she was no longer on the team, and she decided to come back and, get some, get her pay, that she didn't, she was done. So it didn't affect her anymore, but she wanted to, bring the rest of us down. But, so it could have gone a couple ways, actually. I mean, they could have just said, you know what, we don't need cheerleaders. Like, you guys don't bring that much value to the team. Or they did what they did, which was they raised our pay, and we actually got paid for practice from then on. So, it was actually my rookie year. We didn't get paid for practice. We only got paid for games and appearances. And then, my veteran year, that was when the lawsuit was happening, and they actually paid us minimum wage for practice, and then upped our pay for games and, appearances. And yeah, it was, everything kind of changed on the team. It was like, it got from I think it became a little bit more relaxed in a way. There were a lot more rules before that we had to follow. And I think with the lawsuit, it kind of really tamed everything down. But also, in regards to pay, we were definitely compensated and back paid as well. But yeah, it's tough for me because I didn't want to be any part of it. Like, obviously I was happy that I was getting paid more, but it was very unfortunate that, one of the girls that danced on the team had to go and do that and stir things up.
Yeah, no, I can imagine. So, I mean, obviously it's not a year-round job. So, what kind of other jobs would you have, during the off season, or was this kind of your main thing?
Well, it was. So I actually, so I actually did have another job. I was working in IT for J. Crew. So I would I would work my IT job 9 to 5, and then I would go to practice from 7 to 10 p.m.
Full day.
But it was pretty it was a pretty much year-round gig though, because we had our training camp during the summer, and then in the fall we obviously had games, and then in the spring we were getting ready for auditions and had auditions again. So it really was a year-round job. I mean, our contract was May to May. So yeah, it was definitely a year-round job, but also didn't pay enough for it to be my only job. So
yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah, so it was a hobby, really.
Yeah, that's cool. Nick, I know you had something.
So on your Instagram bio, it says that you're on a mission to give the world clean drinking water. So tell us a little more about that and some other causes that you might be a part of.
Yeah, so I have been around the world, and I've seen so many places that, like specifically I went to Peru, and I was in this small village in the Amazon, and it floods there January to March. So this well that they pump out of to get their drinking water from, they can't use it from January to March, and they drink out of the dirty river because it's all flooded, and a lot of times, people will get sick and die during that time of year. And being there and seeing it firsthand, it just really kind of lit a fire in me. And I really want to help not only that community, but kind of anywhere in the world that needs help getting clean drinking water. So one of the things that we're doing is we're actually raising money to build a water tower in this village, so that the water is sitting higher up and they have clean water year round.
Yeah, I think that's a really good cause that you're involved with. So, I mean, you obviously do a lot of traveling. So if you had to pick, what's your favorite place you've ever traveled to?
Peru, hands down. I've been 3 times already to Peru, and it's the most magical place. Well, okay, Peru and Costa Rica. Those are my 2, if you haven't been, you got to go. Peru is there's so many different, what's it called? Climates. There's so many different climates in Peru. The first time I flew into Lima. Actually, my best friend got married there, and so we had their wedding, and then we went to Machu Picchu, and that was really beautiful. And then the next time I went, I spent time on the beaches in Peru, which are also beautiful, and went to the sand dunes. And then this last time that I was in Peru, I went to the Amazon, and that was also beautiful, but a completely different, very rustic experience. But yeah, Peru is absolutely amazing. I highly recommend going for sure.
That's really cool. So it sounds like somewhere definitely tropical, though. That's the place to go.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I've always felt more at home in a tropical climate.
Yeah.
At least in warm weather, because I'm in LA, so I mean it's not too tropical. It's kind of deserty, but but it's warm.
Yeah. So you cheered for the Jets. Do you still keep it? Do you still follow the Jets at all? Is that team somewhere near and dear to your heart almost?
Yeah, I mean it's actually really hard to follow them on the West Coast because I can't see any of the games unless they're nationally televised. So that's a little bit of a bummer, but I do keep in touch with my teammates a lot, and every year they have an alumni game for the cheerleaders. I wasn't able to go this year, but last year it was our 10-year anniversary of having a cheerleading squad, and so everybody who's ever cheered got invited to learn a routine and perform on the field again. So I got to do that. That was pretty cool.
Yeah, that is really cool.
So there was a story I don't know if it was a few years ago or this year about the Saints, trying to keep their cheerleaders away from the players and going a little overboard. Did you ever experience anything like that at all?
Well, for us, it was a very strict no fraternization clause. I think mostly because, they didn't care if we dated players from other teams, but they didn't want, any if there was any drama between, if you and your boyfriend had a bad day, and he sees you on the sideline, that can't mess up his game. And I think that's kind of where they're going with that, is that they just don't want any sideline drama,
I never actually really thought of that. I think, yeah, because that would probably impact like the on the field like product.
Yeah.
I guess.
But if you're dating another team's players, who cares, right? Like,
Yeah, no,
Yeah, that's true.
So you obviously take a lot of pride in your Texas roots. Who are some of your favorite Texas football, or do you have Texas football? Like, what are some of your favorite teams?
Well, I grew up in Austin, so UT was always my school that I kind of, followed and cheered and went to the games and all that. I went to Texas State, which we did not have a very good football team. I was on the dance team, but we just were not very good. And now we're getting better. We are getting better, and we're D1 now. We're coming up in the world. But UT was always more fun to watch. And then obviously the Dallas Cowboys. That was my my team growing up. So there's still a place in my heart for them. They were in a different conference anyways, so we would have never played them really. It was never like an issue, with them. So I still cheer for both teams, which Dallas isn't, hasn't been doing so great either. But those are my two pro teams for sure.
Yeah, Texas got a big game this weekend. See, I'm an Oklahoma fan, so
a little
rivalry.
Watch out.
Yeah, Texas is actually really good this year.
Yeah, that is a big game.
Yeah. Do you ever say "Okay, cool, hook 'em"? Do you know what that is?
Hook 'em, for sure.
Yeah.
Hook 'em horns.
Hook 'em horns. All right, so we're gonna kind of wrap up our interview. We're gonna do a lightning round. So we're gonna do rapid fire. And are you ready?
Okay, I'm ready.
All right. Favorite movie?
Oh my gosh. Big Daddy.
TV show you're currently binging?
Making a Murderer.
Ooh, okay. Yeah, that's solid. What's the accomplishment you are most proud of?
Becoming an NFL cheerleader, for sure.
Yeah, right? I mean, that's like, yeah. Who's your favorite celebrity?
Oh, Bradley Cooper.
Are you a cat person or a dog person?
I'm a dog person. I have a little Maltese.
Oh, yeah, that's awesome. Favorite play? Okay, I've already asked you that. When you cheer for teams in the AFC East in the wintertime, what were some of your tricks you would do to kind of stay warm out there?
Oh my gosh. Well, just moving around, first of all, the more you move, the warmer you get. But we had these like flight suits that we would wear, and so they were pretty warm inside, but we would wear layers. I mean, we'd put on tights, we'd put on we'd have like hand warmers and foot warmers and, anything that you could use to keep warm, we did it. But yeah, it was just moving around was the key.
Yeah. What was like the coldest, like, did you go to Buffalo when it was like negative something? Like, you have like a specific place you remember where you're just like, this is.
Well, we actually didn't travel with the team. It's only home games. So the only time that any NFL cheerleading squad travels with the team is for the Super Bowl. So we just do home games. Yeah. So my own stadium, which I'm so mad. It's a new stadium, and they decided to make it an open air stadium. Like, you guys could have at least put a retractable roof. Come on.
That's a really good point. All right, so that is all we had for you. Where can people find you on social media? How can they follow along with what you've been up to?
So you guys can follow me on Instagram. My handle is Lindsay from Texas, so it's super easy. Instagram's probably the best way to keep in touch with me. I do have a Facebook, but I don't really use it too much. Hit me up on Instagram.
All right, well, listen, we really appreciate you coming on and spending some time with us. I hope you had a good time.
Yes, thank you guys so much. I was so happy to be here, and I really appreciate what you guys are doing.
All right. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Bye, guys.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye.